the woman just goes silent on you. Sometimes it's in the manipulation, it's in the fear of speaking up. You do something small, your opinion doesn't count. He's always hushing you up. I know of this man who had gotten a girlfriend, and the girl thought she could give her opinions whenever. And the guy said to her, when I'm with people, when I'm around people, you just keep quiet and just look pretty. That is all I want from you. I don't want you saying anything, not to speak a word, because that's not what you're there for. You're just there to look beautiful. Can you imagine? And I'm thinking that kind of relationship is a toxic one. But I don't know for her whether that rubbed off well. But for me, that would, hit all the red flags and I'll be ready to run anytime. But she stayed around and hung in there despite the fact that the man was doing all those things to her. So, guys, it's a live chat, and the topic of discussion is toxic love. Why we stay in painful relationships. That is what we are going to be diving into. And it's a live chat. Go on and send your opinions, your comments. I'll read them as and when time allows. And also, you can also go on and call in, on +256 7625999138. That's the number to call in, and we can also hear your opinion on this one. Otherwise, why do people hold on to the very people that hurt them? That's all. Lillian says, good evening all. Yeah, Lillian, good to see you. Rogers was already asking about you and where you are. I'm hoping, Rogers, you've noticed. She's right here and her opinion will count. Yeah. So, Lillian, while you are aware, the topic of discussion is toxic love. Why do we stay in painful relationships? Why do people stay in such painful relationships? Why do we hold on to the very people who hurt us? Yeah. Why does love, something that is supposed to be kind, sometimes feel like a prison? Those are the areas that we are going to be covering today. And Roger says sometimes people stay in that kind of love because of running years. I like Roger's comments. Because of running years without married people. Married people use words like example, Lilian, Diva, for example. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, those words can keep us really in those toxic relationships. When you hear words you from people saying probably Diva, or you have no one that is checking you out. So that is why we stay in those toxic relationships. And Roger says, good evening to you, Lilian. Yeah. Otherwise, back to our topic. Yeah, there is a reason why people stay in those toxic relationships. An example is the words of people. Like Rogers has said, they say you have no one else that will take you on, you are left over, there's no one that can care for you. Those are reasons that keep people in toxic relationships. Otherwise, those of you who have just joined, the topic of discussion today is toxic love. Why we stay in painful relationships. Why do we hold on to the very people who hurt us is the topic of discussion today. Why does love, something that is supposed to be kind, sometimes feel like a prison? That is what we are going to talk about. Today we dive deep into the painful truth about toxic relationships. Why do so many people stay in such relationships? So it's a live chat. Go on and give your opinion as to why people stay in such toxic relationships. This video is for anyone who has ever asked, why can't I leave? I mean, you see it is toxic, but you can't leave. You hang in there to the abuse. Yeah, we are sharing stories on why people stay in toxic relationships. It's a live chat. Go on, drop your comments. We'll be able to read them as and when they drop in. For starters, we go into asking, what is a toxic relationship? It's not defined by constant violence. Yeah. Sometimes it's in the silence, in the manipulation, it's in the fear of speaking up that someone is actually going through a toxic relationship. There are characteristics of a toxic relationship, like control. When a person is overly controlling, like there's this guy called Sam and Lisa. Sam started off like this, the very best thing that had ever happened to Lisa. But then he started checking her phone, controlling who she's talking to, who she's texting, what site she's going on. And then started getting into her makeup. You can't be wearing makeup. No, you cannot be wearing those clothes. And that is how it started. And Lisa thought the man is just possessive. He just likes her to himself. Well, actually, this man was one that is toxifying the relationship. And by the time Lisa realized this is a bad one for her, she had really gone in deep. But before, she thought that, this man loves me so much, doesn't want other people to see me. That is why he controls how I dress up. He doesn't want me to, other people to be drawn to me. That is why he doesn't want me to make myself up. It starts off confusing. You think it's too much love. He wants you to himself, or she wants you to herself. An example, even ladies can be toxic in a relationship. They control who you're talking to, where you're going, how you're dressing up. Women can be that as well. So it's not only one way that it's just the guys. It's also the women. They can become that. And I'll read some comments that I've just seen coming. Lillian says, good evening all. Yeah. And Lillian says, I agree with Rogers. Societal pressure. Yeah. You feel like you have to be in that relationship, even when it's toxic, simply because you don't want people to think different about you. They've always known you as Mrs. So-and-so, Mr. So-and-so, or you don't want people to say there's no one, you're off layer. No one can have you, like Roger has said, Wadiva. Those are things that people have to bear with, and so they stay in toxic relationships. But really, a toxic relationship is one that anyone wise enough would leave if they happen to see. And Rogers says people can stay because of bad situations they are in. Like, say, I don't have where to go. That is very true. And Jamie770 says, hi. Hi, Jamie. Yeah, people, I know of actually ladies, mostly ladies, because you guys get us into relationships and you've already built the houses, you're already, taking care of us. You make us even forget how to work, so we don't work. And when it comes to you throwing me out of your house, I actually have nowhere to start off from. So yeah, not having where to go. I know of this lady who didn't have a job but had 2 children, and her man was really, really bad. He would beat her in the in the taxi park, as they are walking about, going to get to another taxi, say like they're trading from one taxi to another. And someone makes a comment or looks at her, he would pull her and slap her when she's actually done nothing. But because the man was insecure and people were making passes at the girl, so the man would beat her, for nothing. And at the same time, it's the man who used to go around sleeping with just about anyone. And this made her feel insecure, made her feel small. He would use the degrading words that at some point made her seem like if that guy ever left her, she had nowhere else to go. So that kept her in that relationship, even when it didn't work for her. And she was only hoping. When I asked her one time, why can't you leave? She said, if I only had somewhere to go, somewhere and something to do so I could sustain my children and myself, I could leave. But I've got nothing going for me. So She couldn't go and leave that toxic relationship. So there are many reasons why really people stay in toxic relationships, like we are going to dive into today. Rogers, those are very good comments. And the very signs that this is a toxic relationship is control. Yeah, not it, control. If a